the GSL Code A, otherwise known as the WCS Korea Challenger League. I am Wolf, and as always with me is Kaldor. We're here, we're live.
Yeah, today we are going to have a really good day at the GSL Code A. Is my microphone actually on?
Yeah, it is. Okay. It's a bit quieter than usual in my headset as well.
Okay, so apparently we had a little bit of a change with our technical equipment here, but yeah, today is going to be a really exciting day. The last week was already amazing where we had the first round of Code A, and now we are in the second week and we have really exciting matches coming up for you.
Yeah, we really do, and there the sounds a little bit more normal now. Yeah. I'm really excited for today's matches. We're now out of that Danger Day period, so no longer people worried about falling completely out of Code A. It's more about whether or not you get to that very important third round where you have that direct shot into Code S, or whether you fall down to the up and downs.
Completely true, and as already mentioned earlier, we have really exciting matches here. They are now on screen. First of all, we're taking a quick look at the race distribution here. We still have 8 Terran players in the run, 10 Zergs, and 14 Protoss players.
Yeah, very, pretty varied distribution actually compared to what we've seen in the past sometimes. A very heavy Protoss roster of 14. A lot of those players falling down from Code S.
Yeah, very strong Protoss players that we have there. But let's take a quick look at today's matches. Here we have them first versus hyvaa, our first series today. And I'm personally really excited for match number 2. Trap versus Curious is going to be a really good one, especially since Trap is on such a roll against Zerg these days.
Yeah. I mean, he was actually able to take out Sniper.
Yeah.
And that's a feat in itself.
That was so impressive, and now he's up against Curious, another very strong Zerg player. It's not going to be easy for him, but against Zerg, he seems to be so strong. But that's, of course, not the only match that we have left for you. We have still Yonghwa versus Rain later on. Such a great Protoss versus Protoss. And last but not least, it's Paralyze up against Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, we have not really been able to broadcast any of Paralyze's matches, but we've seen him in Pro League in the past. We've seen him in Starcraft 1, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do today. But he is going to be closing out our afternoon session. We're starting things off with First versus hyvaa. As mentioned before, you can see the records on GSL broadcasted matches. Both players not playing all too much just yet. You can see First has played obviously a lot more often than hyvaa has, but he's got a lot more experience as well over hyvaa. I think he's the favorite to get out here.
Yeah, this is one of the matches that I expect to be very close. A lot of people have been saying that they favor hyvaa a little bit, others favor First, so it's one of the closer matches that we have today, that's for sure. Yeah. And First of course, with his victory at IM Katowice, that was something where he kind of came out into the limelight. He was already known in Korea before that for a long time, of course, but that's where he made a bit of a splash in the foreign scene as well.
Yeah, First is one of those players who did extremely well switching over into Heart of the Swarm, just like Yoda. But he's one of those players who's either really on and on fire, or sometimes he can look a little bit shaky, so I'm curious to see which First we're going to see today.
Yeah. He's up against a strong opponent. hyvaa is not a pushover. DF Atlas is going to be our first map today in the Protoss versus Zerg. This is, of course, all best of 3.
Yep. Looks like everybody is set to go. You're going to be starting very soon. This First looks a little bit sleepy in the boots. Got to wake up.
I guess he definitely will. I mean, this is one of those matches where he has to bring his A game. This is the second round of Code A, the second round of the WCS Challenger League Korea. And we've seen already so many games just earlier today when WCS NA was on. It was really interesting to see those matches. And of course, we also had a player participating that is currently here in Korea. We had Scarlet play. Yep. She took second place. It was quite impressive to see her come out of that group. So that was really quite the achievement. Congratulations to her.
Of a strange group. Oz actually falling down in 4th place in the group as one of the first Koreans to really lose that hard.
Yeah, I did not really expect that. State was doing well. And there was a time when Oz was considered to be the best Protoss versus Protoss player that we had in Korea. That's been a long time, of course. That was like 8 months ago, maybe. But nowadays, his PvP is not as solid as it was back then. So State able to win the winner's match and then advance to the consolation match. But Scarlet, with the second win against State, was able to clinch that second place and to advance to the next round.
Yeah, it's such a great tournament we have here, WCS worldwide. Make sure you don't only just check out the Korean version, but check out the European and the North American ones as well. There's so much StarCraft content out there right now.
Yeah, there's really a lot of good games coming out of those groups, even though we still have to say that the Korean WCS is, of course, in terms of the skill level, far ahead of the others.
Absolutely.
But still, if you look at Code S or like the WCS Premier League that is played on an ANU, that's really exciting. The games there trying to catch as many as I can, and it's really convenient that I mean, each day that I wake up, I can just go over to my computer, and at that particular time, WCS and A Premier League will be online, so that's pretty cool.
Always catch that right before we come down here to do our casting. It's really conveniently timed.
At least for us, yeah.
Yeah, for us, very much so. And DF Atlas is map number 1 in Code A. For those of you guys who are a little bit newer, we're suddenly we had a sudden camera shot there. Those of you guys who are newer to the GSL, in Code A, you do not have map picks, but in the past, in Code A, for example, the loser picks.
Yep. Apparently, hyvaa has a little bit of a problem with this setup, so this is why we are taking a few more minutes before he can actually jump into the game and play. As I said, against his opponent, it's not going to be easy, but first versus hyvaa is only the first series that we have today. And from the early 4 matches that we have, what's your preferred series?
Maybe this one, actually. You know, I'm really looking forward to see how well hyvaa is going to do. There's a lot of hype surrounding him right now. And he's playing against a top-notch Pro Toss player first. And, I mean, there's a lot of matches coming on in the evening session as well I'm really looking forward to. But in the morning session, this may be my pick. Because Pro Toss vs. Zerg is a matchup that's so interesting right now because little things are getting figured out. That air style that's so difficult to deal with for Zergs is really giving Zergs some problems. But Zergs are slowly starting to figure it out. And I'm hoping we get to see some of that. Also, you know, some of the new gateway expands.
You know, the style that you just mentioned with Air Pro Toss, and I talked to a lot of Zerg players about what they're currently doing against it. And what seems to work best is a combination of Queens and Hydralisks. That's kind of what most of the Zerg players that I've talked to try to run with these days. If you also get a few Vipers into the mix, then you have a pretty good chance against it. And well, it's also kind of convenient to have a few Infestors ready, but of course those are all really gas-heavy and intensive units except for the Queens. So if you can really afford all of that, it's pretty awesome. You can really get a lot of chain funkles off, but the core of the entire counter strategy seems to be a mix of Queens and Hydralisks. That seems to work really well.
We saw a little bit of this yesterday in Code S as well, but let's go into map number 1, DF Atlas first versus hyvaa. WCS Korea Challenger League, casted by Arnold.
Starting to the bottom left of DF Atlas, we have the LGIM Pro Toss player. Yes.
LGIM first.
And he is facing a 6-pool.
Yeah. No nonsense here by his opponent. The Zerg player starting to the bottom right of the map. In blue, it is
STX or hyvaa.
A little bit surprised to see a 6-pool in this series, especially on this map.
You know, I like it as an opener because this is something where your opponent doesn't really know what to expect. So this is one of those counter plays that we've seen quite a bit. But the problem for hyvaa really is that first is a little bit lucky with his scout. If you are going for a 6-pull on a very big map, you always gamble a bit, and you always want to... You gamble on the fact that your opponent will probably not scout you immediately, and that is exactly what First does. So for hyvaa, this is the worst-case scenario.
Yeah, this is terrible for him. This is going to allow First to react perfectly, make his forge, make a second pylon in the main base so he can get that cannon up, and he's going to start that forge right away down here at the natural.
Keep in mind that hyvaa in the first round of Code A was able to take down another Pro Toss player. He went 2-0 against Terminator. First, on the other hand, had to deal with the Pro Toss mirror matchup when he defeated Shark. So the winner of this match is going to advance to the third round of Code A, where he will face Yoda.
Yeah, this is... You know, this is a pretty cool opener by hyvaa. I like the choice because a lot of Pro Toss players will go Nexus first on this map because it's 4-player and it is large, and the Zerg, you know, oftentimes does not scout early, but he can transition out of this.
What he's probably going to do is like build the cannons in his main base. That's kind of what you have to do in these scenarios, and there's already the cannon. So he's sacrificing the forge on the low ground, and he had to build the forge on the low ground because the pile in the main base wasn't ready just yet. So this is kind of the trade-off that you have to go for. The only other options that you have is build the cannon on the low ground and block the ramp with your probes.
Yeah, that's the only other way, and that's a little bit less reliable. You can see he makes a gateway to kind of slow these links down a little bit. Unfortunately, there's a little gap. He's going to have to use his good probe micro here to protect his cannon until it's finished.
Yeah, so far so good. Doing a good job here. First with a solid hold. And now the only thing that hyvaa can do is kill the forge and take down the pile on the low ground.
Yeah, you know, he's going to transition quite nicely behind this. It's a little bit more difficult to transition than a normal opening, but Notice that first makes his cannon on the right side of his mineral line, so you can also protect that assimilator. If you're a newer player and you're having some trouble holding these types of rushes and getting your gas up, make sure you make your cannon on either the left or the right side so you can get that gas up. Otherwise, the Lings are just going to kill your assimilator.
And this is, of course, now really bad news for hyvaa. He's already far behind in the harvest account. We are at 10 to 17 roughly in favor of the Protoss. It screws up the timing for the Protoss play a little bit, but as you could see, First didn't take any losses, and the cannon is conveniently placed in the middle of the mineral line, so hyvaa can't sneak in and take down a few of the harvesters, and he also can't really deny this gas, which is really important. The positioning for First's cannon is excellent.
Yeah. And he wants to, of course, go over and poke at that second assimilator, but as soon as the Zealot comes out, he's not going to be able to do that very easily either. And the gateway is positioned with the Cybernetics core to make a really nice tight wall. I really like this to keep the Lings at the ramp, so now he can't get a probe out to do any additional scouting. He doesn't know if hyvaa has a natural, for example, right now.
Yeah, the scouting, that's definitely one of the things that works now in favor of hyvaa. He can block the ramp with his Lings. But this is one of those builds where he was trying to surprise his opponent, to blindside him, and this didn't work with first scouting to the bottom right as the first starting position. Now hyvaa is in a very weird spot, and he's not even trying to take a natural, so it looks like we're going to see just another all-in following this up.
Yeah, this is actually really hard for First to hold if he doesn't scout. He has the Mothership core out to deter these Lings, but the rest of the Lings are going to be hidden. He's just going to go one base Speedling, and if he can get up the ramp and get into the main base, the game will probably just end like that. I mean, only Parting can hold off crazy aggression like this, as far as we've seen.
The thing is, we have sentries now coming in, and with the sentries, he could block the ramp. As long as he holds his main base, he's going to be fine here. So for hyvaa, he's just looking at the game, he's like, well, my 6-pull didn't work at all, so now I have to do something. He can either try to catch up with the Protoss, which is nearly impossible because First didn't lose anything, or he can try to go for another all-in. And there are only so many you can pick off from this position. You can either go for Banelings or you can go for Speedlings.
Yeah. And Speedlings is a really common choice against someone who tries to just go into gateways in the main base and tries to expand slowly with that Mothership core. But with the sentry on top of the ramp, like you said, all he has to do is react carefully here, cancel his Nexus and make more sentries. The second sentry is about to finish, he needs to react, and a perfect reaction here. He does not save the Zealot, but that's the only thing that goes wrong.
Second sentry is out, and the Warp Gate technology is nearly done. He realizes now that he has a big problem at the bottom of the ramp. He needs more force fields, and he will use them. There they are, but he needs to protect those sentries.
Yeah, that sentry cannot afford to lose it. It looks like he will.
And that was horrible.
He doesn't have another sentry ready just yet. Warp Gate research is almost done, but it's not done yet. He needs to get that SimCity back up.
I don't think it's going to be a problem for him to hold, though. He can always use the Mothership core as soon as he has the energy to go for Photon Overcharge. He has additional sentries. Losing one was a big problem, but there's still the cannon with the Photon Overcharge. He can hold long enough to get those extra gateways and the Warp Gate technology.
He bought a lot of time with those first two force fields. We have a transition to the hatchery. He is supply block for quite a long period of time. Luckily, it's going to work out with his Warp Gate research, though.
Yeah. And now the transition for hyvaa. This is the time where he tries to go for an expansion, and he's also moving in. There's the force field. The probes immediately fighting, and the cannon doing quite a decent job, whereas the Nexus cannon is doing so much damage here.
Yeah, the Nexus cannon and those force fields trapping all the Lings. They cannot escape here. He's losing so many of them, and this is so much damage for hyvaa right now. Worker count 19 probes to 17 drones. A few more finishing up, though, as I say that.
And don't forget that the tech is decent here for First. So First is now in a position where he tried to expand earlier. He lost a lot on the low ground, though. So hyvaa is actually doing quite well considering how this game started.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly did do a decent amount of damage with the Lings getting into the main base there. And the probe pull reaction was not as quick for First as it could have been. A lot of his probes on the right side did go down.
First could have done a little bit better with the force field at the ramp. If he didn't lose the second sentry, it would have been easier for him to just ward this off for a little bit longer. Right now, he's going for that expansion and he needs to protect it. This is exactly what's going to happen here. He's also in a position where he has a decent sentry count, so First is still ahead overall in this game.
Yeah, Speedlings are not really going to be able to deny the Nexus anymore because he has that sentry count up, he has the gateway production, he's even starting to make a wall here, probably going to start a forge pretty soon.
He also sends out the Mothership core because he still doesn't know what exactly is going on here, so he needs to get a glimpse of his opponent's main base. He sees that there's no lair tech, he's going to head over and try to find out if there's a natural for his opponent. So at this point in time, hyvaa can actually close the gap between the two players. It all depends on what exactly First is going to do, and it also depends a little bit on how much hyvaa is now trying to commit to his economy.
Exactly, and First needs to be careful not to overextend and get caught by speedlings in the middle of the map. In this case, there's not enough speedlings yet, but that Overlord is really important because he's already supply blocked as it is.
He has quite a few though, and they are heading over to the expansion now, and this is something that he can't afford. Yes, there's a cannon in the main base, but if he has to cancel the expansion again, then he will be behind.
Yeah.
He needs to win it with this attack.
It looks like he's going to try to win it, but there are already Spine Crawlers. hyvaa playing this really, really smart here. Nexus not canceled just yet.
Here come the sentries, the force field at the ramp, the most important thing for him. He could take this down. He has the gateways, he has the warp gates, he can go for it.
The Spine Crawlers are not ready yet. The drones are being pulled here. He gets another good force field at the ramp, and the Queen's trying to fight here. There's not a lot of DPS left, though.
Another Zealot being warped in, trying to hold those Zerglings off a little bit more than natural off first, but he can't really pull it off. Here are the sentries, though, with another force field. He can just stop the reinforcements.
And he gets those Queens as well. This is very important. Now all he needs to do is avoid the Spine. He misses the force field on the ramp, though.
He should try to kill those. If he kills the Zerglings off and goes to the main base, it's a big problem. But on the other hand, we don't have a pylon on the low ground to warp onto the high ground. The expansion, on the other hand, is safe.
Yeah, the expansion is safe. He warps in a few more Zealots there. He's just gonna go back home, I think. He's done enough damage. He's killed so many Harvesters. Worker count right now 26 to 19.
Yeah. You can really see that hyvaa was not ready for this. He's down to 30 supply against 51. The expansion is there for First. He did not fully commit to this, warped in units at home to defend the expansion, and it was the right choice. If you look at it, we have him now on 2 bases against the 2 of hyvaa, but as a Zerg player in this position, you want to be either on 3 bases or on Hive Tech.
Exactly. And in this case, he's now also 20 supply behind as well. Can't get these links into the vein. He's going to force some force fields to be dropped here.
Lair Tech, of course. I mean, Hive Tech would be what you're trying to aim
that
for
would
eventually.
be pretty sick.
Yeah, Hive Tech would be pretty sick at that point, but yeah, you would at least try to be on Lair Tech.
Yep. Good force fields here again. He's trying to bait them out because he knows that the backbone of the army is those sentries right now, but every Ling he loses is a lost larva, and this is going to be suicidal if he attacks into this.
The tech is good here for First. He has the sentries at the front. He can always wall off with additional force fields. He has the firepower to stop Zerglings. As long as hyvaa only commits to Lings and nothing else, First should be fine here, even without the +1 attack upgrade.
Yeah, he's saved up some minerals. Looks like he will start a 3rd hatchery pretty soon, but there's hallucination scouts going across the map just trying to scout this. There's one of them right now. Flies and sees, oh, not even mining gas. You're only making more speedlings. This is going to be pretty simple. I just sit at my natural and make sure to not make any mistakes. This is going to be just a slow, painful death for hyvaa right now, as First patiently adds a few more gateways, and he has the robotics tech up now.
That's
GG. That was just an all-in strategy by hyvaa. He started out with the 6 pull, which can actually be a pretty good build to transition out depending on how builders go, but he got unlucky. Then he went into the speedling all-in, and really patient play by First overall.
Yeah, it was, on the other hand, also something where he got quite lucky with the early scout. This is a gamble that you just take. When you go for a 6 pull as a Zerg player on a map like this, you think your opponent will most likely start off with the Nexus first. If he does and doesn't scout immediately what you're going to do, he is most likely either going to lose the game or take enough damage so that you can safely transition with the lead in the game into a macro match. That didn't happen here, because we had the probe heading to the bottom right first, and therefore the Protoss player could defend in time. But that's the point where he got a little bit lucky with the scouting.
Yeah, definitely so. On a 4-player map like this, if he had scouted to the bottom right and hyvaa spawned to the top left, for example, then he gets a much better position.
Exactly. No Zerg player will ever play this strategy on a 2-player map unless he studied his opponent's scouting pattern and realized that the Protoss does not scout does scout at a delayed timing.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why you would ever start with an early pull like this on a 2-player map. Usually you will only play this on a 4-player.
Yeah, I do not think we're going to see anything like this on Daybreak map number 2. I expect to see just a regular pool into hatchery build. First may go for one of these gateway expands on this map. It's a good map for that, but so far he's shown us just standard forge play.
Yeah, 1-0 for First here. hyvaa looking a bit concerned, I would say. At least he's currently trying to think what he's going to do on map number 2. I have to say, though, that I like that he opened this way. We talked about gambles that you sometimes take, which is a calculated risk, and this is what he did. And I really like that he was trying to go for it. I could have seen this doing a lot of damage if not scouted with the first probe, but it's something that I can definitely appreciate. This is one of those things where you try to prepare for an opponent and then it doesn't work, it makes you look a little bit silly, but that was a lot more dangerous than it looked.
Yeah, much more dangerous than it looked. And I liked first decision to put on a little bit of aggression. It was a little bit of a risk by him because he could have lost his Nexus for it, but he just did so much damage. His force fields were decent. And going into map number 2 here, anything could happen. I think we're going to see a much more standard Protoss versus Zerg, a much more mid to late game oriented one.
In a best of 3, mind games will always come into play. So first now is, of course, thinking about the second map. He's thinking, well, what are you going to do on a map like Daybreak? Are you going to try to cheese me again? Will I see a 2-base timing from you? Are you going into the normal 3-base opener against me? And we could also see just first changing things up a little bit. I would really like to see, for example, a gateway opening instead of a forge.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see. Map is loading. It's Daybreak, one of our oldest and most popular maps, very balanced third base.
Very figured out, a lot of the timing is known to the players, of course, and we're gonna find out if First takes the series with a 2-0 and advances to the round of 3 of Code A, or if we have hyvaa bringing it to a third game here at the GSL Code A with Balamo.